Last week we talked about sexy photos. Well, today we're talking about something else sexy, which is travel. Hey everyone, Stephan here. I hope you're doing well. We live in a weird kind of time where travel is not really recommended. I know in Europe they open it up a little bit, but from here in Australia's example, people are not recommended to leave the country. And then if you want to come back, it becomes even more difficult. For me as a Swiss citizen, I could leave Australia if something would happen to my family in Switzerland. However, they wouldn't let me back into the country and I would have to pick Swiss family versus Australia family, which is an impossible decision to make. In this time, I think even more important is that we look forward to when everything changes, when we finally get this whole thing under control and we can travel again, because the world, let's face it, is such an amazing place. We just have to go out and see it. So I thought to dream a little bit together, I'll show you some impressions from my last visit to Hong Kong. I must say, even though I fly around the world for work and pleasure quite a bit, I do not like flying. The one thing I do enjoy, however, is looking out of the window and seeing the clouds pass by. It never gets old. I still take a video every time. There's just something majestic about it. The one thing I do like is when a plane has onboard cameras, especially on landings. I know it's silly, but I somehow feel safer if I can see what happens. Maybe some control issues, I don't know. But anyway, here we are on approach to Hong Kong. So what to expect? Like New York and Tokyo, you'd expect a ton of people in the streets, and yes, they are. Even though I must say, it doesn't feel as rushed as in other places. This city has a certain calm to it. Hong Kong is known for its shopping and you find a ton of it. From the high-end labels, of course you find them in other large cities as well, to small, really cool boutique stores. It's a paradise if you want to get rid of your money quickly. And this is an expensive city. I'll show you a few handheld impressions I filmed, mostly on my iPhone, might be a little bit shaky, whatever, and I sprinkle in some photos. After all, I am a photographer. And when I'm on such travels, I always have to remind myself to take some videos as well. I mostly like to wander around without a real plan in mind, and I just suck it all in. That, at least for me, is the best way to get the vibe of a place. Just walk around, talk to strangers, eat stuff, getting a feel of it. And then, yeah, Stephan, take the camera out, take some photos, take some videos. I sometimes just forget. So while I'm walking around, I see these groups of women everywhere, sitting on cardboard boxes made into little cubicles, I guess. So I was explained that this happens mostly on Sundays, and these are housemaids, as in foreign domestic helpers, who are mostly from Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, these countries, who work 6 days a week, pretty much 24 hours a day, cooking, washing, looking after kids for Hong Kong families. On Sunday, which is their one day off, they meet with their friends, they chat, cut hair, play, dance, eat together. It's their way to keep a certain level of sanity. Last year, 2019, there were more than 400,000 such workers in the city. And yes, many of them you meet on the streets in those cubicles. I think it's kind of cool. Anyway, as I said, I generally walk everywhere. It's the best way to explore a new place. And by pure chance, you run into interesting situations, be it festivals, interesting street scenes, or even a dance-off. These snippets, by the way, are filmed with an Insta360, not the best video quality, but a really cool way to capture everything that happens around you. It's hilarious when you watch something in front of you and then afterwards looking at the recording, you see what people did behind you. It's just funny. Now, the other way to get around and see a lot is by using public transport. Whenever I can, I take buses, trains, and use the subway system rather than taxis. Of course, like all big cities, you have to keep your wallet in a safe place, but generally speaking, I must say I felt very safe here. The public transport system is brilliant. You get to every corner of Hong Kong with ease, and that said, you better not be shy of large crowds because there are millions of others going the same way. It's packed, but I guess that's part of the fun. So let's do some touristy things. One of the first things you find on any tourist guide is Victoria Peak, high up overlooking the city. But to get there is a journey by itself. Step 1 is to find the Peak Tram, a cable car. I assume you start your journey at Central, which is the business district, and you make your way up the hills of Soho. Talking about hills, by the way, you better get your best walking shoes out in this city. With all the stairs, you'll walk off any lunch or dinner in no time. Anyway, I suggest you take your time getting there. In Soho, take the mid-level escalator and explore the little side streets. Very green, very gorgeous. You can create some awesome pictures there. And then, when you finally found it, you take the tram up to Victoria Peak. You can go up that viewing platform, I think it's called the Peak Tower, and then you, of course, take your official snaps, best around sunset. And while everyone is looking down to Victoria Harbour, which of course is impressive with the high-rises and all, I would say don't miss to turn around and take a few photos the other way because you will find some really cool, curvy architecture. That actually, I believe, is the better photo. Now, on the way back, just around the corner from our hotel, I just had to take a few impressions from the fruit and fish market. With COVID, I know there's a lot of talk about the wet markets, especially in China, but let's face it, you'll find these throughout Asia. Good or bad, it is colorful, creates some cool pictures, and full of life. And as we came back to the hotel, we saw them prepare a car for a local wedding. And it's not just any car, it's a very purple VW Beetle. With teddy bears mounted on the hood, a few photos were taken. I think now they're setting up for some video stunts. Nope, that was obviously not good enough. Let's do it again. All right, cool, let's move on. So next on the toury list is the Big Buddha. This is, at least to start with, a relaxing ride in the cable car, which should take about 25 minutes or so. We were told to expect massive queues. However, when we arrived, we could just walk straight in. I believe this is because of the ongoing demonstrations when we visited Hong Kong, which kept many tourists away. Now, since we've been there last year, the new security law is in effect, and I would assume that most demonstrations have stopped, as the Chinese government can now arrest, detain, and deport people pretty much at will. To me, that's a pretty scary thought for sure. Anyway, let's leave politics out of this and enjoy the Big Buddha. But before you can do that, guess what? You have to climb another gazillion steps. But I guess we're already used to it by now. Also up there you'll find a beautiful monastery. It's not quite as old as I expected. It was founded just over 100 years ago. Where I grew up in Wettingen, Switzerland, the local monastery was founded 790 years ago. So I guess I somehow automatically expected that monasteries generally are quite old. Anyway, it's absolutely beautiful and worth the visit. I don't know why, by the way, but I couldn't stop taking photos of these burning incense sticks. They just look so cool. beautiful. Back in the city, there is, of course, more shopping to do. This time, it's one of the many markets where you find every brand your heart desires at a bargain price. Way better for my wallet. And of course, it's all fake. By the way, if you pay the first asking price, you're a complete fool. You probably get it at least at half the price, if not less. Also, if you ever shopped in such a market, I don't know, be it in Bangkok, Saigon, it's all the same. Know that there are different levels of quality for the exact same products. So, it's still fake, of course, but it's a better fake. And in case you enjoy fish and gold more than Gucci, Hong Kong has just the right place for you, the Goldfish Market. Personally, I found this a bit strange, but it was packed with people, again, very colorful, and I had to take a few snaps here as well. Another stop for most tourists will be the Avenue of the Stars. Quite a nice stroll along the harbor, reading the little plaques of famous Hong Kong personalities, you know, the Jackie Chans and the Bruce Lees. And yes, there's also the somewhat famous statue of Bruce Lee, but maybe fitting for Hong Kong, right in front of a Starbucks. In one of his films, Bruce Lee visited his father's grave in Hong Kong. I had this strange idea and said, I'll go and find that grave. In other words, I'm on the bus again for quite the journey. It took me about an hour, maybe more, to get there. And when I arrived at the cemetery, I realized that I clearly underestimated the sheer size of it and the many, many more stairs. But I must say, it was impressive. I've never seen a cemetery of this size, and it was calming and beautiful. So I started to count rows and sections, eventually to admit I might have been in the wrong place altogether. Disregard the boiling heat and the many stairs, this little extra journey was still exciting and worth it. While I'm already on this mystical journey, let's go to another place. In this case, it's the Monastery of the 10,000 Buddhas. I should have known by now what awaits me when I arrive. A lot more stairs. But I'm here anyway, so I may as well go for it. Insta 360 out in one hand, up we go. And it's cool. It's not so cool for the legs, but it's certainly cool for the eyes and the mind. Along the entire way, every single Buddha statue is different. You could literally stop and take pictures every 2 steps. It's awesome. And of course, there is so much more to see, experience, and photograph in Hong Kong. There are quirky little street corners. There's entire building complexes like these. After all, this is one of the most populated cities in the world. And if you're into food, you'll love it. And then there's people, architecture. You find a ton of interesting situations all throughout this mega city. So what's next? From Hong Kong, I flew to India, which is a completely different experience altogether. It's dirty, it's exciting, it's super colorful, it's mysterious, very special. But maybe we'll talk about this another day. For now, I hope you enjoyed our little trip together to Hong Kong. I wish you all the best, stay safe, look after yourself, and tune in again next week.